Kevin, I'm so glad you reminded me that that it was Miller time or beer time, because I went into my kitchen.
Are you a label whore? Are you plugging for Miller right now, Ryan?
No, I wish they were sponsoring us, and then I would be a total whore.
Yeah, because I just kind of hoard myself because I'm drinking some freebies from one of our clients.
Oh, what do you got? Show me.
This is the new packaging for Witzenale from Arcadia.
Oh, cool.
They're in Battle Creek, Michigan there, and we just got done with their new labels and packaging. So, like I said, I was saying earlier, the best part of that is not the design work, but the free beer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, that just makes all the meetings go that much smoother, right?
Yeah, or we just forget everything and you do whatever you want.
That's a good client to have, my friend. What I was about to say was that, so I went into my kitchen and grabbed one of my favorite artifacts. Besides the beer, I'm drinking Corona tonight because it's a summer beer, and I want summer to be here now. But
did you have to push aside all the Cristal to find the lowly Corona in the back? Yeah,
I did. This is one of my favorite objects in my house right now. It's a bottle opener that I got from the Alessi factory in Italy. I was actually there at the factory, and while
Michael Graves was pounding it out.
Yeah, exactly. I whipped him and said, "Finish that, so I can take it home." And if you guys are familiar with the Alessi factory, please do some research on it. If you're, there's a lot of design history there throughout the world. They've got a museum. If you're ever in Italy, you gotta find this place. And if you're lucky enough, if you smooth the right lines or whatever, you can get into this museum. And there are original pieces from all types of designers. I saw like this really weird like tea set that I've got the worst memory in the whole world, and I'm trying to drop some names right now. It's not even working out for me.
Don Sagmeister, Neville Brody, David Carson.
Salvador
Michael
Dali.
Graves. Salvador Dali, even better.
Salvador Dali, and it was supposed to be this tea set that he made out of metal, and it was all like curly cues and it looked like everything had mustaches, and it was really bizarre and amazing. And I actually got
when
to
you
see
poured it poured onto your own hand.
Exactly. It was liquid. The whole thing, it switched around. It was amazing. I can't believe it held anything. But definitely check it out. It was a good reminder. I need to go. I've got a book on them that I need to reread. So cheers. Here's the virtual. You're having a beer.
Cheers. Yeah.
Do not pour it onto your laptop. Cheers.
You got to get this part right though. This is the cross screen. Oh yeah, there you go. Easy, big guy.
We'll drink to that. So
yeah.
The kickoff here is.
Oops. Hey, can you hold on one second?
No.
Hold on. Yeah, Debbie. Yeah. Oh, that was an amazing interview. You are just the best person to ask questions, and I just really enjoyed our time together.
Say hi to Miss Millman.
I'm doing something else, so I got to get going. But yeah, we'll talk later. Okay. Yeah, love you too. Yeah, kisses. Bye bye. Sorry. What were we doing here again?
Do you have Miss Millman on speed dial?
Oh no, she was just calling me. We did this thing she does for I think it's like NBC, the Today Show, or satellite radio, something. I don't know.
Something.
But yeah, what are we doing here now? What's this whole deal?
Karate chop. I don't know. I have no idea. She is actually going to be on the show. I haven't announced this yet.
Oh, really? Sweet.
Next week.
Segue.
Yes. Brilliant. I didn't even feed this to you. On Wednesday is Chicago Design Week for AIGA, and we're doing a show live from Columbia College with Art Chantry, just like this, but with a live audience behind us. It's going to be crazy. And then the next day, on Thursday, 1 week from today, we're doing a show with Debbie Millman. I'm very honored that she's going to be on because, I mean, you could imagine she was, at some level, an inspiration for what we're doing right now.
She's the Terry Gross of the DesignChat world.
The Terry Gross?
Yeah, that means you need to be the Ira Glass, though, brother.
I could be.
You.
I could be.
So make me cry, man. Come on. You can do it.
You're cracking me up. I can't even keep up with you, pal. Wow.
Yeah. What was your worst design disaster? Right. And they never paid their bill.
They never listened to a word I said. They didn't like the fonts I picked. Nothing. Are you ready? I think you're ready.
Yeah, let's do it.
You sound warmed up.
Yeah, well, like I said, they did a couple things before I left work today. They said, number one, don't get drunk, and too late.
Too late, sucker.
And number two, they said, don't make an ass of yourself or us, and well, that's coming. So
that's well on the way.
Yeah.
So hello and welcome to DesignChat, the best live design discussion on the internet. I'm your host, Brian McGovern. On Twitter, I'm at Hoobajoob and at DesignChat. Every week we get together and bring together some of the coolest people from the design community. We break down corporate and competitive barriers, and we share ideas, we share our thoughts. And tonight, I think we're going to hear a lot of those. We have Kevin McConkey from Grip Design. Golf clap.
Yeah.
Yay! Thank you so much for coming, Kevin.
Well, when the coolest people aren't available, you've always got my number.
I'll put you on speed dial. So welcome, man. I'm really stoked about talking to you for a number of reasons. We had a phone call earlier today, and we started to get on the idea of design community and Chicago design and all that, and all I could think was, oh my God, if I don't get off the phone, I'm going to talk to this guy for like 5 hours, and there goes the rest of my day, right? And I'm going to get fired.
Yeah, really? They'll fire you for that?
They could.
I get paid to talk on the phone. Yeah.
But yeah, okay, so I don't even know where to start. So usually we begin with a sort of introduction. So for people who are not familiar with you, your work, and your group, Grip Design in Chicago, give us a brief history of who you are, what you do, and why you do it.
Well, in 1973, we invented Comic Sans, and from there on, it's been sort of an upward progression of type history, leading on to Hobo, which then gave way to Cracked, and Cracked House, which House stole. But beyond that, we're really looking just for the next Mrs. Eves. That's really what we're searching for right now.
It's got to have the backstory, though. It's got to have the mystery behind it.
Okay. Actually, the real answer to that is that Grip has been in business for 11 years now, and I think that everybody that comes into this profession comes into it sort of from their own perspective, so it doesn't really matter how we started. What is most important is that anybody who starts a design firm will start it in their own way. I think the interesting part of the story comes, and I think Renata from Plural talked about this a little bit a couple episodes ago, how do you stay in business that first year? That's the make or break time, and that year, like 1 through 3, it's funny. We really just kind of bootstrapped it, and we had clients who paid us to do enough work that we could, feed the cats and hang out and hire a person or two and get some programming done. And from there, we grew, and it was really kind of an awesome adventure. And for everybody who gets to this point in their career, and I mean by this point, I mean being old and still doing design, which is my case. It is an awesome privilege, and people forget this because they get so caught up into what's the next cool thing, what's the trend, how can I get the best client, but really this is a privilege. I mean, we go to work and we get to endlessly create, and as long as we justify what we do with a tangible return for our clients, we can do whatever we want, and no other profession that I know of gets that same freedom as long as they produce. And it is awesome. I absolutely love it. I think anybody who's watching this, hopefully you're as into this whole notion of design as a business and as a career and lifestyle, because really what you do for 8 or 10 hours a day, that's your life. That's your lifestyle. So, I mean, if you don't love it, find something you do love, because this is certainly something that you'll think about a lot if you do it for as long as I have.
So 11 years, how many people, how big is your group? Where's your office at? What's the environment like? What's the sort of culture that you cultivate there?
Well, there's about, I guess at last count, 643 of us. We're spread over 14 continents. We have... Right. There's not 14 continents, Ryan. What are you doing? You're just agreeing with everything. Come on,
I was a design major, dude. I don't know those answers. Not one of the clients that requires it. Do I look it up?
Yeah, we're on 14 continents. Yeah, including Pluto, which is no longer a planet, but has a continent.
I think it's the beer talking.
It is. You're looking better every minute. But honestly, there's 6 of us. We have a pretty tight-knit office. We have a lot of people that we bring on that are sort of not subcontractors, because once you work with us on a project, you really sort of kind of become part of the family. And all the people that we work with, be it writers or photographers or other designers, even in some cases, printers, and to a large degree lately, a lot of programmers. They all sort of become absorbed into the fold during the course of the project. So when we did belive, which is a big online retailer of fashion, there was probably, including the people on their staff and our staff, in excess of maybe 20 people working on that job alone. Then you bring into the course photographers and models, and it does get to be a pretty big number, even though our core is pretty small. And we like it like that. We like the familiarity of having people who you grow and respect, and who, when they give you a critique, it's so honest that you don't dare do anything for the first time or put something up on the board for review that isn't something that your peers will either like or be able to improve. There's no crap anymore because we all have such respect for each other.
So your group has survived and sounds like you're thriving through, one of the biggest changes that I think has ever happened to career paths of designers, where everything shifted, and all these print designers who had been working in the industry forever and ever and ever, now almost every project that we touch has a digital component. Why don't you talk a little bit about that and the changes that your group had to adapt to in making that move?
Actually, that's an awesome question. I don't mean just to blow smoke up your ass, but it signifies.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, hold on. That was not a cigarette. Anyway, that's like the fake, everybody gets that.
Right.
So anyway, the thing that happened that's so interesting to design, and it's happened a few times over in different industries, but we've started to notice this cycle now, is that we're seeing sort of a sea change in the way we produce items. Design is still extremely important, but as the procedure of production changes, we need to change with it. So, and here's the analogy that I always tell some of our clients, and feel free to steal this if anybody finds it. Years and years ago, if you wanted to have something, let's say you were in a band and you want to have a poster printed, you went to a guy that had a printing press, and he had some probably wood or lead type, and he typeset something, and he printed something in the color that you picked out, and he gave it to you. He was both a designer and a printer. And then printing presses got really, really complex. And as printing presses got more complex, the guys who were able to run those presses were of a different mindset than the person that was able to design for those presses. So what happened was you have these basically kind of gear junkies, engineering types, who would run these football-sized presses to absolute perfection, versus the designer who would be able to meet with the client, interpret a marketplace, and then really understand what the design impact could be on the commercial side of things. So those are different disciplines. Now with the web, when the web first started, we had a lot of people who could do a little HTML programming. Everybody in my shop could, they could do some basic HTML, put up a splash page, things like that, even some more complex things. But eventually, the world we're in now, the mindset to program back-end functionality is just like the mindset to run a huge printing press. It's largely engineering. It's largely understanding the notion of how the functionality works, but not how it should be interpreted to an audience, particularly consumers. So we have designers now, again, relishing the role of not being secondary, but just being the first step towards implementation of a web-based function. And that is an awesome period. It's very exciting because now, like some of our biggest jobs right now, we're not doing any programming because the programming is so complex that we have specialty places, just like we have specialty printers. We have specialty places that incorporate the functionality we want with the tracking, the recommendation algorithms, all those interesting elements that affect the design are all outsourced now. And I would never want to have a crew of 30 programmers smoking cigarettes and being surly and drinking coffee till 4 in the morning every single night sitting next to me. I would much rather have the crew I've got right now, who I absolutely love and adore, because every day we have a new way to push each other from a design perspective. We don't worry about the back end.
So we are definitely in this environment of collaboration where there are people and other practices that we need to involve ourselves with. And I think it's a really interesting time because we're seeing this, it's almost like dough folding over, where design is influencing technology, and technology is influencing design and culture, and it all sort of keeps on doing this and turning over and over and over and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Do you see? I mean, it definitely sounds like you're comfortable with having that core group and have them sort of as your think tank. What are the sort of methodologies you use to bring together that collaboration of clients, your group, and then all of the other disciplines that you involve yourself with?
Well, I mean, it's the hardest thing to do is to trust a vendor. I mean, it's brutal to have somebody that produces your design in a way that is tangible, be it printed or online, and I think it's a fear factor that every designer faces when they hand something off, and there's always a sort of circle of feedback that gets it to the point where the printed piece or in a press check or the functioning piece in a web design, where it finally meets sort of the designer's ideal. It's a tough part of the process. So what we look to do is we look to have all of our people be mostly team leaders, and we want them to be able to take control of projects. We want them to be able to manage other people. We want them to be able to have a vision that I think is implementable but also appropriate. And how you inspire that, I don't really know if there's an answer for exactly how you get it. Some people have it, some people don't. But I do know that over the years, we've started to find the people that think the most about how a client will benefit from their design. Those people who are truly commercial artists, they have the most success working with us because, we do a lot of great stuff, but ultimately, in the marketplace, we're judged by how well we do for our clients. And if a design is absolutely appropriate, and if it helps them either move a product or a service or appeal to a consumer or generate interest, then they tend to give us more and more freedom. So it's kind of one of those things where I look at the people that I work with as absolute top of the food chain when it comes to making great decisions about how design impacts the marketplace. And as a result, when a client says, wow, this is amazing, I've never seen so much interest. Like, for example, we just did this redesign for this beer company. Not a huge project, but very, very important. It's a family-owned company, and what we've done is made it more approachable from a consumer perspective. So they now sell more beer. So the next project we do for them, we have complete autonomy. And so we have more and more freedom the more and more we show them how our addition adds value to their company. And that's, finding those people that understand that versus just wanting to do something that's cool and looks pretty, that's the hard part.
One of the things I forgot to mention at the beginning is that we do take audience questions. We're on a different platform than we're usually on. So if you're used to the vocal platform, I apologize. We'll be back on next week. But so we're going to hold questions until the last quarter of the interview, about 8:45. But keep on asking questions throughout, and we're going to harvest those questions. Sean, I hope you're listening, Shampton Alive, and then serve those back up to me in the Google Doc. And then we will ask those questions of Kevin, and of course give you credit for them. When we do that, we won't pretend we came up with everything. We are completely brilliant here at DesignChat. So talk a little bit about your client relationship. You were just starting to get into about like how the sweet spot of creating those relationships. How do they usually start for you? Are you promoting yourselves heavily? Do clients come knocking, breaking down your door? How does the beginning of that work?
That's an interesting question. I mean, it comes from all over. And if you look at some of the early work we did, you saw that we did a lot of work in the financial industry. We did a lot of work for some very large clients like BP back when they were British Petroleum before they became Beyond Petroleum. And that work was great. It was very lucrative, but it was very soul-sapping. And one of the things we realized probably about 7 years ago, and this is a hard thing to pull off, but it's very, very true, is that when you work with great people, you have a tendency to get great work. And what I mean by that is that we can do work that is in one industry. And if anybody out there ever goes to see a David Baker lecture, he preaches that, just pick an SAC code and just go right up the ladder. So if you do hotel and hospitality, just hit up every hotel and hospitality. Be the best hotel and hospitality person you could possibly be. He also says that your work should be somewhat profitable and your personal life should be rewarding. The problem with that is that, you spend so much time at work that it becomes, by default, a little bit of your personal life as well. So we chose to abandon that model and not specify any one industry. So we don't look necessarily for an industry that we can do a thing for, but we look for and we actually had developed a series of criteria that we ask all of our clients. And, number one is are they a good person and do they have potential for growth? And by good person, I mean, are they ethical? Are they willing to work hard? Do they have a feedback mechanism that we feel like will be quick so the projects can start on time and finish on time? Is there something about the relationship that we can find value in from our perspective as designers, but also from their perspective, in that they give us more and more latitude as we prove to them more and more our work impacts their business? So this whole good people generates good work, it really is valid. It's very, very difficult. I'm not going to lie. The other method that David Baker preaches is a lot easier because you just have a specialty and you hammer it. This is hard because you have to find great people, and that's like a needle in a haystack. Some of the ways that I've done it, and we'll give away the secret here, is that do philanthropy, join boards, be active in your business community. It's not necessarily that I'm going to tweet about my personal life every single day, and I know that social networking is awesome, but I don't have a Facebook page, not because I don't think it has value, but because for me personally, my greatest time spent is out meeting people that are, and I'm a little bit older, but that are of a like age, a like point in their career, that are starting companies or that have left companies to start new companies, and those companies have potential for growth. And once we recognize that, then it's easy to foster a relationship, and it might start with a small project, but once it shows value, they hand over the keys to the car, man, and it's a fun car to drive, because when you're entrusted with their brand, and it's a big thing. Designers forget this all the time. I mean, we talk about this at work, where a company, if we were to spend as much money as we charge our clients on some of our vendors, we would be very nervous that they would do the perfect job for us. Yet when a client comes to a design firm, oftentimes we just assume, hey, you know what, I'm the expert. I'll show you what to do. You can even match your socks. So trust me that this will work. What we forget is, our work influences their jobs, their lives, their companies in a way that is profound, and they're scared and nervous. And the way to assuage those fears is to be very conceptual, be friends, build trust. Trust is key. When I have given a couple talks before for different AIGA chapters, I always mention that we don't even sell design, we sell trust. We sell trust to people who need to believe that what we do will make them more money. And the more trust they have, the real irony is the more freedom we have as designers to do something that is fantastic, that's groundbreaking, that is interesting for us creatively, but also interesting to the marketplace. And for everybody that looks at other, designers and some of the design work out there and goes, this is crap. I wish I could have done this. I would have done so much better. Well, somebody before you built that relationship, and they built that trust, and that client said, I trust you more. What you need to be is a better designer and a better friend. And not to say that clients are necessarily friends, because it doesn't always work out that way, but they need to be trusted consults who, it's a two-way street. And again, when we find those things, ethical, have potential for growth, and potential for growth is another thing that we're just now touching on. That is huge, because our work with BP, while it was interesting, we built a bunch of microsites that tracked different costing for different gas stations all over the country. Again, it was very lucrative, but it never moved the needle on their business. So it was very unsatisfying from our perspective, and it paid the bills, but we never want to do that again, because if we can't show that what we do impacts them from a business perspective, then it's kind of soul-sapping work, and I don't want any part of that anymore. I'm too old for that, and I learned those lessons a long time ago, and we have the luxury now to be able to pick and choose a little bit better, and I pick and choose the people I work with more than the project.
I'm just going to let you keep on going, man. Pretty soon this is going to be the Hello Grip Design Chat hour, You are just a wealth of information, and we started to get into this a little bit earlier today on the phone, and you were just tapping into it a second ago about putting yourself out there in your industry and going out and shaking hands and meeting people and getting that face time. Let's get back on that topic a little bit, because that's near my heart, definitely, because one of the biggest reasons why I'm doing this is because I found myself working in agencies where I'm in a silo, right? And you're not really supposed to talk to people on other teams, because they could be pitching for something that you're doing, or even people at other agencies and that sort of thing, because there are these weird walls where you can't share industry secrets and all that. And I started to get very frustrated, that I felt that there was a lack of connection, and I didn't get enough out of reading an interview in a print magazine where it's just one line here, answer there. You know, it wasn't enough. So talk a little bit about that and sort of your viewpoint, because you spent a lot of time. You've donated a lot of your time, your personal time, to go out and talk to design groups and that sort of thing. So it's got to have some value with you.
Yeah, I love that. In part, both, and I should mention that there's a brilliant designer who's the principal at Grip, and the other owner is Kelly Kaminsky, and she is absolutely behind this 100%. And we feel that, you know, this is not an isolated industry. And the giving of your time to improve both young people, from her work at Marwan, my work going out and speaking, and also doing portfolio reviews, you know, that comes back in spades, especially when all of a sudden everybody starts to have better answers when clients ask questions about the merits of your work and why you did what you did. Not being able to say, well, because I thought it was cool, but being able to have actually business rationale behind what you do. You know, that sort of lifts all boats. And it is it's an obligation for the people who get to be a certain point in their career to do that. And it's really awesome to see. I think there's a new resurgence among younger design firm owners to kind of participate more in the design community. I certainly see it among the people that we work with. And again, it is probably the best group of people I've ever worked with. It actually is the best group of people I've ever worked with. It's also the best supportive environment for nurturing great design without having it be competitive. And those silos that you speak of are an aspect of a corporate structure. And corporate structure is designed that you're going to be the best or kicked out. And the people that are kicked out oftentimes might have had great ideas, but were never offered the chance to develop. And it's frustrating. I understand. And, you know, one of the things, you know, both Kelly and I, we worked in corporate environments. I mean, we're no stranger to that. I mean, I had a big fat org chart sitting on my desk, and it got updated once a month, and I had to write performance reviews. I actually was given software that would write performance reviews for me that wouldn't allow the company to be sued. That sucked. All right? Yeah,
I can't even register that. What does that even mean? Explain that to us.
Well, that, like, you know, when you're an agency or in any even in-house agency, you have to give annual reviews to your team. And because some things that are said in those reviews can generate lawsuits, a company went out there and wrote software to make sure that if I said, you know, Ryan, your design work is great, but I think, you know, you argue too much about making the logo bigger. You know, don't do that anymore. It would say, Ryan, while a very hard worker, oftentimes is contentious in his conversational skills. You know, and so we could never be sued for that. And so I could not ever even say it. So this report was generated to review you. It was totally impersonal. Oh. And so those silos affect creativity. And when you do something like that and you have this structure that's very, very dominant, I think you stifle the very nature of what our job is supposed to be about. So, I mean,
I'm flabbergasted right now. I'm still absorbing the fact that a piece of software like that exists.
Yeah,
that will blur communication. You know, all for the sake of trying to save someone's ass because they're worried about being sued.
Yeah, that's the corporate world, though, man. That's the way it works. So I don't know if I answered your question or not. I don't know if you want to re-ask that.
No, I think you got it covered, bud. Cheers to that.
Okay. Yeah.
Weird corporate clink. There, we got it.
There you go.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about more specifics about projects that are going on, and you know, your favorite types of projects to take, things that you say no to. You know, your most favorite thing going on in the office right now. What is it?
You know, this is an interesting question because someone asked me a while ago. I think I was giving a talk in Jacksonville, and they said, "What's the most proud moment you've ever had at work?" And I'll talk about the projects we have going on that I love now. But before I answer that, my most proud moment at work, and this is when I realized I really did enjoy the group that I was working with, is I went on vacation for a couple weeks. And when I left, a project came in. It was a fast turn type of thing. It was completed, was done, and already in production by the time I got back. And I saw it, and it was awesome. I had absolutely nothing to do with it, yet somehow the people that I had, you know, spent all this time around, regardless of my input whatsoever, produced something that was so beautiful, probably more so than even if I did have input could have produced. And that was a very humbling but proud moment. It almost just felt like that it was something that was beyond any of us at that point, where we had engendered an environment that creativity could occur and people could do things that were appropriate and really, really interesting. And that was my proudest moment, and it continues to be my proudest moment when things go on without me knowing that are so awesome that I have to stop and be like, I love this. I love this. Who did this? And it had nothing to do with me. But the projects that I look at right now, this is, let's face it, 2009, it fucking sucked. 2009 was the biggest crap economy we've ever had. It was a brutal time to be in marketing. And I've seen the dips from the late 80s, the early 90s, 2011, 9/11, and then now this, 2009 sort of sinkhole that we just got through. So it was one of those things where it changed me a little bit, because we had so much of what we do as designers be impacted by the types of jobs that were coming in, that I started to appreciate the things that we could do that really had an impact, not just on our own design sense, but on our clients' business model. And I've spoken a lot about this. You probably haven't had that many people on that have talked as much about this, but I really see that sort of closed loop as being the key to having great work. So, for example, if you do a little bit of great work, the clients love it, the clients make more money, they give you more work, they give you more and more latitude. And I have tons of stories that exemplify that. But the real thing that I've been interested in lately is we've done a lot of package design. And we're not a package design firm per se, in that we don't have mechanical engineers on staff where they make dies and complex machinery to make special packages, because those days are over. Now you have all this CAD design going on by these packaging manufacturers, and they come to you and they pitch you these very, very raw vanilla boxes, vanilla packaging, ways to shrink wrap things, and they say to you, this is the technology, do something with it. And the great thrill for us is to have that happen and then be able to essentially skin a package that we can choose, that's appropriate for our audience, that's appropriate for the product. And that has been really, really fun, because, and you can mark my words on this, you're not seeing huge print jobs go out anymore. So my firm belief is that packaging is the last bastion of real print design. And it's the one thing that even in a down economy, people may not launch new products, they may not come up with new services, but they all redesign their packaging to reflect sort of contemporary trends and aesthetic sensibility. And they do that because a package is the ultimate point of sale. And so if they change the packaging, oftentimes people reinterpret the product. And sometimes the product is, sugar water for soda, or, malted barley water for this stuff. And it's really interesting as a designer to see how your basic work as an interpreter of taste, of culture, can affect somebody's packaging, and that affects their sales. It's a very, very closed loop. Whereas some things, if you do let's say you do an annual report, or let's say you do something that sells shares on a publicly traded company, those things, it's really hard to track. It's really hard to figure out, how does my work as a designer influence the bottom line on this? And a package is the exact opposite. It's a total closed loop system. You can look at the number the month before it came out, the month after it came out. So it's fantastic. For us as designers, it's like a godsend.
And for an example of that, if any of you guys are interested in looking into that, search the Tropicana packaging debacle, I believe 2009. You can see the hardcore results of that closed loop.
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to touch on that's very important to note is one of the reasons that we came together to have this discussion tonight is I got an email from a guy named Bob Zini, who's heavily involved with the Society of Typographic Arts, the Chicago-based design community. And he says, well, we're having this annual design contest that we do every year in Chicago, and we want you to interview the judges from this contest, and you, Kevin McConkey, are going to be one of the judges.
No, not true.
Not true.
I'm not a judge. Grip is curating the award show, so we're.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no, we have
misread that.
Yeah, no, we have great judges lined up, and it is an all-star crew. But one thing that I can say without question is that there are very few organizations like the STA out there that are doing this for a completely different reason. I mean, there's some, and we all enter the magazine-driven award shows, but having judged several of those, it's a real revenue generator for the magazines. The STA, while it seeks, of course, to break even on these shows, it does just that, it breaks even. The goal of the STA is to create a living archive that serves as a model for what this community, this period in time is all about. And by entering this show, your work truly does sort of live beyond just a magazine that's printed one time. I mean, it exists both online, but also it's something that references a specific point in time and a specific place, this community, the Chicagoland community. And I urge anybody who is designing in Chicago to enter this, because it's the only competition that we have that is unique to us. I'm sorry, but like the Midwest regional annuals and all that, I mean, I love those, they're great, but I mean, everybody gets in. I mean, come on. It's like there's, 6th honorary mention, a coaster, from Starbucks, I mean, everybody does that. So this is a really unique opportunity, and we've got just an all-star crew of judges. I mean, Terry Marks, Renata from Plural, she was on earlier. We got Jessica Hish, who's, I don't know if anybody's seen her stuff, but I mean, she's brilliant.
Look her up. If you're not familiar with her, Jessica Hish, she does something called the Daily Drop Cap. She's a very talented designer, and young too. I think she's like 25, and she's doing really amazing work. Look her up if you're not familiar with her at all.
Yeah, and so, I mean, and there's other judges as well. I mean, Hartman's a judge, so, I mean, it is a brilliant competition, and it's local to us, and it's one of those things that you can always send your money to someplace else to enter a competition. It's very rare that it stays so local, and if you're anything like us, you understand that there needs to be a support system that is not exclusively the AIGA. And while the AIGA is awesome, and we love them to death. I've been a member for over a decade. Like I won't even say how close to 2 decades, but for a while. Yeah. I'm young, I swear, man. Look at these bags. I'm like,
I wouldn't tell a soul that you've been in it for 20 years.
Yeah, no, come on, who cares? But the point of it is that you have this very storied organization, the STA. They have a competition that's unique to us. Why would you not enter it? And that organization serves as a very inclusive counterpart to some of the exclusivity that people complain about with the AIGA. So I just think that for everything that it's worth, if you're going to enter any one competition, this is definitely the one to enter.
And I should mention it's called the Archive, Archive 10. I've just posted in the chat room, sta-archive.com, I believe is where it's at. sta-archive.com. Go there, register, sign up, submit your work, be part of the collective, and like you said it perfectly, this point in time, represent who you are and what we do. And it's going to be a very rewarding experience. So I am going to be interviewing all those involved with the show, and all the way up to the show. The gala, I should say, is going to be in October in Chicago. So from now until then, we're going to sporadically be talking to people who are involved with it, and I'm very excited and honored to be included in that, and bring the discussion back to the design community. I'm very excited to do that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're all about it, and like I said, we've donated all of our time to do this because we feel it's a very worthy cause, and it's one of those things that we don't always say yes to some of these things, but it's really important to us because this community is really, it's important, and it is where we spend our time every day. It's who we see when we go out at night. We influence each other, so why would we not make an effort to support that?
So we are living in sort of the digital world right now of online digital community and social media. How does grip design sort of play into that? Is that something that's sort of on your radars right now? That so you've got the Twitter account, but you personally don't have a Facebook account, that kind of stuff. Where does social media fit into the world of stuff right now?
Well, I mean, it's important. It's important in that, but here's the thing, is that we say social media and you talk about Twitter, and those two things, and I just had a long conversation with a good friend of mine who's the CMO of Bluefly, and Twitter is not social networking. Twitter is micro-publishing. And so what you have is people who begin to publish their ideas and other people follow. And that is a lot different than having this sort of nexus for people to come together to and exchange, equally. And that's more like the Google Wave concept. And Facebook has sort of exemplified that a little bit to a certain degree. But social networking is very important, but I think the idea of micro-publishing is even more important. I think the idea of having people understand that as a thread beginner, you can lead them to places that they never thought possible that are within their same sphere of interest. And what I mean by that is this, that we all have certain things that we seek to follow, be it trends in fashion, design, music, anything that we experience in our lives. Where do we find those people that influence us? And it's not, by influence, it's not always the popular kids' influence. I mean, look at Christian Siriano. Christian Siriano was, by all means, kind of a dorky, kid who eventually found fame at Project Runway. He's somebody, though, that fashionistas now look to and they see as a trend starter. They follow his thread through the course of the fashion industry, and along the way, when he leads them to an offshoot here or an offshoot there, they follow that. So the idea of social networking is really about finding the beginning of that thread and following it through until the point where the thread runs out for you personally. But that thread, that micro-publisher, the Christian Siriano in this model, that goes on forever. So, constantly publishing things that are of interest is probably the best thing you can do to attract people that are interested in you. And the best part about this is, and I'll never forget this, I've seen a few people do this and I love it, is it's not always your work. The best thing about this notion of supporting other people is that you then promote an industry. So the fact that I love the design that Rule 29 does, that I love the design that BSA does, that I love Pentagram, all these things, they supply a sort of an industry insider perspective into what I love. And you can choose to follow that as far as you want, but you'll never find it if you don't use some of these vehicles. And we're calling it social networking, but again, I'm a little contentious on that because social networking is like, hey, I'm having a barbecue, here's 50,000, invites, it's on my wall, who wants to come, RSVP, bring your own beer,
Right.
And that's not really what we're talking about.
Right, yeah, there are two sides to this. There's, I always make the example of when I would bring up Twitter, a couple years ago, and people would, that's crap, I'm never going to be on it. It's just people telling me that, the size of their dump for that day. It can be that. And if you imagine you're a superhero, right, and all of a sudden you have the ability to hear everyone's thoughts throughout the entire world, what percentage of that do you think would be total crap and stuff you'd want to turn off and never hear again? That's essentially what Twitter's, done for us, is that we can hear all these people's ideas, and we don't want to hear all these people's ideas. But if you listen carefully, there are people who are putting brilliant ideas out there, and you can start following conversations. And the real powerful tool is when those conversations, you catch that thread, just like you were saying. You catch those conversations, and it carries you on to another idea, and maybe you learn something and collaborate. And some of that stuff is happening. It's not the way that everybody uses that tool, but you get these hashtag sort of chats that are going on. And how I started to say earlier, that's how DesignChat started. Twitter is not the end-all, be-all form of communication for everybody, but there are some interesting things happening. So Twitter, so we would start with a hashtag. It's just a hashtag DesignChat, and we would have 3-hour conversations over Twitter, just talking about sharing ideas, things we're working on, things we don't like. And just started the discussion. And then we brought on a special guest, and actually had a special guest through that. And then that led to the video of we wanted to actually talk and move the discussion even further, so we could progress and still have the the sort of audience and chat room and that sort of thing. So you hit it right on the head when you said it. You got to catch that thread, and you'd like ride the wave.
Yeah, and that's it's funny because now these sort of social networks and micro-publishing has become, our CNN. And, I don't want to quote Public Enemy, but, sometimes it's appropriate. But I will say that for the majority of us, I suspect that the news we get first is probably the news that is published immediately on Twitter versus something that has been carefully edited and then posted by sort of a respected, media outlet. And I know that when I check, the news in the morning, I have one, browser open and another one to my, I guess, lurker Twitter account where I follow all the cyclists that I like that. But it's interesting in that, we have a client now and I won't say who it is, but they now have 20% of their hits, their page views, coming from Twitter because they have fostered a lot of other people who are in their same industry to tweet about things that are going on. And
Right.
So it certainly is interesting, and it's like although I hate CNN's iReporter, it's like a sort of a quick, fast fix of an iReporter, where you have people who are able to, without any editing, post things of interest.
Okay.
You were going to say something?
No, I wasn't sure what iReporter was, but then I remembered, and you're just starting to explain that it's people who are just not really publishers or reporters or journalists, but they're going out and gathering information and and there's a source for them to publish that somehow or submit it on CNN. Is that correct?
Yeah, and it's largely crap, because the sad thing is with Twitter, you're allowed to pick and choose who you follow. On CNN Night Chat, it's whoever they choose to give a channel to. Their choices are suspect at best.
So we're getting to the last sort of quarter of the discussion now. We're going to start taking some questions from the audience. Really quick, I'll run these 3 questions I usually ask. They're sort of running to the end of their limit here.
6'3".
Right.
Walks on the beach.
So the first one I like to ask is about, and we've sort of gotten into this a little bit, filtering out the bad and curating the good. How do you curate your life? What are things that you do, methodologies, whether they're digital or just a way of thinking about bringing in the things you want to invite into your life?
Well, one of the things I'll say is that it's really important that you have the things in your life that are sort of most important to you, given your full attention, and that means setting down the iPhone, setting down the BlackBerry. I don't know if you can see back here, but I have my beautiful wife back there at the piano. Hey, babe. How are you? And it's one of those things that, even in, like you said, curate your life. I mean, in this room, we have not a whole lot of stuff. I mean, there's the bookcase. Sorry, my thing is backwards. But beyond that, I mean, we like to think that what we do is about removing necessarily than adding. And how do you curate your life? Well, every choice you make is a curation. So, I mean, if you say I'm going to bring a bunch of crap in, be that, friends that aren't, real friends, or be that junk that you don't need, cheap plastic crap, that all affects everything. I don't know, can you guys hear this?
Yeah, actually, it's beautiful. I can't believe this.
Yeah.
You got to give credit to her. Her name is Josephine Lee, correct?
Yeah, Josephine Lee, and it's it's actually my pleasure to be married to her. So I mean, it's good for everybody. But yeah, I get a lot of this every night, which is very fun to say the least. But
this is the first for DesignChat, live music being played. It's an honor to be hearing it. That's really cool.
Yeah, and actually, ironically, this is Beautiful by Linda Perry, which is made famous, I think, by Christina Aguilera, but don't hold that against the song. It's actually a great song. And Linda Perry's a hell of a songwriter, so. Yeah, it's interesting, the best way to curate your life or anything you do business-wise is to decide what you don't need. And don't think of it as curation, but think about it as what is really important, because it's not about having stuff, it's about not having stuff that doesn't matter. And I know it's a double negative, which is horrible, but really surrounding yourself with the things that mean the most. And I would rather I had a client one time that said, I would rather spend more money on something that I have forever than buy a cheaper version and buy it 10 times over. So, hey, but thank you.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I can't believe that just happened. I really hope that the video screen capture is working. Paul, let me know. Send me a message right now. I really hope that recorded, because I can't wait to publish that. That is so cool.
Yeah. She's the real deal. She has absolutely no business being with me, for real. If anybody who's ever met me, I mean, it is. I apparently drugged her and brought her back to the cave, because I mean, she should be with somebody much better than myself.
Whatever you're doing, it's working. That's amazing. The next question is, do you have a guilty pleasure website, and what is it?
Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, there's always guilty pleasure websites, and they can come and go. For example...
Come on, what is it? What do you go to every day?
Well, no,
don't tell anybody.
Like, should I take I'm on it. Does that matter? You know?
Right.
I make a little scratch. No, the Office website is probably delisted, which is, horribly trashy celebrity news. My personal, sort of weakness is going to probably be Velo News, which is a cycling website, which is horrendously dorky. If I had to say, I love, because design-related websites, I don't really think are guilty pleasures, because those are just pleasures. I don't feel bad about going to, read what Armin has to say, or, going to any of the other, any Design Observer, or, any of the sites that we would normally find for inspiration. The other thing that I'm actually always continually junked out on is, I don't know if anybody here goes to McConkey. I don't hear it in other circles. It's more prevalent, but McConkey.com is
Leo
just
Kottke?
Jason McConkey. Leo Kottke's a guitar player, though, right?
Yeah. Good catch.
He has his own tailor named after him, Leo Kottke. A really fancy guitar. Yeah. No, this is Jason. I'm pretty sure it's Jason, and he's just sort of like an aggregator of interesting news. He's kind of a design bent, so it's interesting, but it's not design as in like an under consideration or a Design Observer. It's just hardcore design. Right. He's more about interesting phenomena. He pointed out big picture when first went up, so you find a little bit about that. He's also quotes, Harvard Business Review, and then he has no qualms, putting on something that is going to be, a little bit NSFW. So, it's good for everybody.
NSFW is always a little good for everybody. Everyone needs a little
bit
of that in their day, no matter what's going on.
Of course.
My last question for tonight is, what is currently on your visual radar? What is something that, you visually is happening in your world that you find interesting right now?
I guess visually is, this is a loaded question, because, the visuals relate so much to the technology that's involved right now. And obviously with things like the iPad, you can say, motion. I think what's going to happen with people's reading habits, I think, are really, really interesting to me right now. How we are on the cusp, and God knows I love books. There's a big, right over here, there's a big bookshelf. My partner, Kelly, is certainly a book addict, for certain. We're at that point where, there's going to come a time in our near future, I'm saying the next year or two, where everything we read is going to be screen-based. And if not everything, certainly a large majority of things that we subscribe to. So what we want, relative to our day-to-day interests. And by most of you's admission, you probably read everything online anyway, but that's not as portable as what it's going to be. What I mean by that is it's not going to be just a small screen, and the iPad is certainly a harbinger of things to come, but how we interpret the experience of reading a magazine now that has the ability to integrate video and text and possibly that thread where I may start an article on a magazine, but I may end up in a different place way far away watching YouTube videos of, Ukrainian fiddle players. Who knows where it's going to end. But that opportunity to explore instant gratification on a whim anywhere based on an interest that you don't know how it's going to begin, that is really interesting to me. And, how people start to give their own information in order to get the type of things they're interested in, that's where the cusp of design is headed. And I'll say this to everybody that's listening, and this is really not about, hey, here's a great idea about, orange is going to be hot, or, we love green. This is not that type of thing. I think Gotham will be popular.
We're going to hold you to it, whatever it is you're about to say.
But the notion of being able to have something be of such interest to you personally that you're willing to give a little bit of information about yourself to a website, a magazine, anything, and have that then thing serve you back other things of more interest to you that you may find a thread beginning, and then all of a sudden you go down the wormhole. That is the notion that I'm most interested in right now. Where is the point where people start to give information about themselves? What have we done from a design perspective that has piqued somebody's interest to the point where they're willing to say, okay, you got me. Here's a little bit about me. I like this design, but I like what you're representing here. Here's a little bit about me. Tell me more about what you can do. Because this is not going to be a world of people who are, making things or selling things. It's going to be about a world of people who are facilitating people's interests with the providers of things that interest those people. So as designers, we're that conduit. How do we put those two together? And the ultimate point of that is, how is it that a website can get me to enter some personal data? How is it that I can communicate with a company in a way that says, okay, I like what you do, here's a little bit about me.
You warned me on the phone earlier, if we got to the 1 hour point, you were going to start removing clothing as to entertain yourself. And we're about 4 minutes away from that right now. So I just wanted to warn the audience, this is about to turn into DesignChat roulette like we were joking about a few weeks ago. Bam!
It's so hot in here.
Right. First we get audio accompaniment, and then we get a strip. That's awesome.
Usually those two happen together.
All right. So we're gonna transition. We're gonna start taking questions from the audience now. So I'm just gonna bring it up right quick. First question comes from, and this is a very difficult name to say, so I'm going to butcher it. Daikajatu. I have no idea what that is or what it means. But that person asks, is there an account rep / director relationship buffer at Grip? Now, and I would imagine this person is getting at, do the designers interact directly with the clients, or is there a buffer zone where an account representative takes what the designer says and translates that so for the client?
Yeah, we used to have a little bit more of the layers, and what we found is that there's a point where it's natural after we're beyond the conceptual stage, if we're beyond the strategic planning stage, and we're meeting as a larger group, coming up with sort of the roadmap, that the clients communicate directly with the designers. And that trust on our part to have the designer be able to represent themselves is sort of what we started this whole conversation about. Having people on staff who understand the importance of what they do to the client's business model, can communicate directly with clients without any reservation from Kelly's perspective. And it's the fastest way to get the best work done once you've laid the roadmap.
Bob, just goes by Bob, wants to know, I know, that's Bob Zini, isn't it? I bet that's Bob Zini.
Bob Zini's question, why is the STA so awesome, and how could it be awesomer?
Close. So what did Grip do for Archive 10 is what Bob wants to know.
Oh, yeah. Bob, seriously, I refuse to answer that. You know what, we're credited all over the place for that, so, we're cool, Bob. We did some stuff for you, and high five.
If you want the answer to that question, go to gripdesign.com and look for it all there. Talk about wormholes.
Or better yet, how about you send an entry into the STA and you'll see our credit on a few things. So.
There you go. Bob wants you to talk about wormholes.
Yeah, blow it out your wormhole, Bob.
Moving on, Garific wants to ask Kevin about his involvement with Rockport Publishers book.
Oh, yeah. Wow, you guys, this is all like, designer shills out there, all of a sudden it's Emily Potts from Rockport is like subbing in questions. Like, tell me how awesome Rockport is, And her what's her handle? Like M4U2Love or something like that?
I can vouch for Garific. He is an Englishman living in Connecticut.
Okay, gotcha. We did a book, really, actually fortuitously, called 1,000 Package Designs, and truth be told, we would have preferred it was 10 package designs before we were done with it. But we curated a book of package work and sort of, wrote a little bit of our perspective on what it meant to be, in the beginning of it. And it went on to print in a bunch of different languages, and it's available in a lot of places. We're very proud of it. It's a beautiful book. The production that Rockport did on it is awesome. So we're very happy to have worked with them on that. But, it's a case where, I was friends with somebody and we gave a speech at a conference, and the two, parties found a way to do work together, and we really loved it. And again, I have absolutely nothing but great things to say about Rockport. It's rare that an industry has a publisher that is as committed to sort of producing regular books that designers can love. I mean, it's like, this is design porn, people. I mean, and they produce it in a way that's printed, that's high quality, that we can have on our desks. I mean, I love those guys. So for whatever it's worth, connection that we made with them was.
Curry Cat asks, what do you look for in new employees for grip? Also, will you be looking in the future?
Yeah, we've heard that question a few times.
Couple.
Well, we always, we love interns. Most people that we hire go through our internship program. That happens 4 times a year. It's paid, so it's actually a pretty legitimate
Legal.
program. Yeah, it's not just legal, but it's a really good opportunity. Our interns have an enormous amount of work that they do autonomously and with some guidance, but I mean, we're not telling them, you're done coffee. It's not that type of...
Your audio just cut out a second ago.
Oops, sorry about that. Is that better?
Yep.
Okay, our interns, and again, some of the names, they're awesome. I mean, Matt Cassidy, a brilliant illustrator. John Polbachek from Thirst was an intern with us. We've had, of course, Josh Playlock, who's our senior designer, be an intern. And that list, I could name names for probably an hour of great interns we've had. So
we'll wait.
Yeah, yeah. But the best thing to do is, send a PDF of, your resume and the URL for your website, because everybody needs to have a website. But really what we look for are people who can explain why they've done what they've done and who understand sort of the purpose of design. And the purpose of design is not, believe it or not, always to be aesthetically superior. The purpose of design is to communicate. And if you can explain why you do what you do effectively, then it'll be a good fit for us.
There was a designer, I just tweeted about this today, in New York, who was looking for a job. So what he did was friggin' brilliant. He went on Google and he created an ad under the name of all the creative directors that he wanted to work for. So when a creative director Googled their own name, the first result that came up was, hey, that's great, Googling yourself is fun. Hiring me to work for you would be fun also. And he got tons of offers from that.
Yeah, and that's a fantastic idea. Probably not sustainable. I mean, when I was very, very first starting out, I actually routed my book through a pizza box through agencies. So I put it in the top of a pizza box with my resume in the top, and I would deliver it. Because nobody would, this is, again, I'm appalled to say this, but this is a long, long time ago, and nobody had websites, and people didn't answer phone calls and set up interviews. So, you had to do things that were different, and delivering a pizza to an agency is a very humbling experience, especially when you're like, no, it's already been paid for, Right.
Like, what? We didn't order this.
Yeah, no, you did, the creative director did. What's his name? I don't know, he'll love it, Yeah, so anytime you can find a way to differentiate yourself, that's good. And clever thinking is going to be applied throughout, any of your work if you do it.
Speaking of clever thinking, Bryce Fabul asks, Kevin, fill in the blank, the design of blank inspires me.
Wow, the design of blank. I don't know what blank is, but I would say that the things that inspire me most are the things that happen to me with the greatest regularity. And sometimes you notice the small things more than you notice the big things. For example, it would be easy to say, like, when they redesigned the prescription pill bottles at Target, that was a really inspirational moment. But let's be honest, that's bullshit. Sometimes, when all of a sudden you go to work and you go, wow, I have a silicone rubber grip around this hot cup of coffee that's reusable and sustainable, and it keeps my hands from burning themselves, and I use this thing every day. That's the thing that inspires you. So my belief in inspiration is that it's not a thing and it's not a well that you can run out of. It's an ecosystem that you sort of try and nurture so that you find inspirational things every single day. I can, like...
Oh, show and tell
this
time?
Thing,
what do you got?
Well, this is, I'm actually in a,
kind of a
commercial kitchen area.
Oh.
It's a bikini, yeah, and you can see how, I'm just now hitting,
Yellow polka dot.
No, it's a lemon squeezer, Dumb, yeah, but anybody who's ever squeezed lemons, something so simple as, like, a great, French press. Those things, when you use them every day, become inspirational.
Or a bottle opener.
Or a bottle opener, yeah, exactly. Yeah. I did I shot, because I used to do a lot of photography when we were starting out, and I shot a promo for Dora Enzo, was the paper company. And one of the promos that they did is they wanted you to shoot all the things that inspired you from a design perspective and shoot them in different areas. And I had this orange juicer that looked like R2-D2, and I love that thing. And when you used it was brilliant. Yeah, and I mean, I photographed that all over Chicago. So the things that inspire you, I don't think need to be a thing per se, but the things that you use the most every day.
Great answer. Great answer. Drop Pixel asks, what type of exercises do you do to get ideas flowing? Do you do anything special?
Yeah, you know what is the really like the nitty-gritty answer to that is exercise, period. Which is funny because we think of ourselves as designers as, sitting at a laptop and, you can be this, whatever shape guy because you're working solely with your mind. But the best ideas for me come when I'm riding my bike, when I'm on a treadmill, when I'm doing something that is physically very mundane, and the process of doing that mundane thing somehow liberates my mind to come up with connections that I would never think possible before. So it's not, there's no system that we do. We always encourage people to not design at their desk. So for example, if you get a project, research and understand, what the industry is and things like that, but then leave, think about something, even if it's going for a walk, something that physically occupies your body, which then frees your mind to sort of think outside of itself, and then come up with 15 or 20 quick ideas. Go back to your desk, rule out, 80% of those, end up comping 4 or 5, you pitch 2 or 3. And so that process has been, and this is not me, we all make lists at our desks of, we've done word association stuff, we've done, different types of creative exercises, but honestly, the thing that works the most and with the most regularity is getting in a treadmill or a bike ride or doing something that just takes you out, even a shower. I think that's why showers work, because the act of washing yourself sort of frees your mind to not concentrate on your body or anything like that.
Jason Freed of 37 Signals was on the show, and he answered that question in sort of a similar way. He started to talk about just getting outside. If you really want to be inspired, spend some time outside. Go look at a flower. Pick apart a flower and start to understand why it's functioned so well, why the design of that flower has let it survive for thousands of years.
Yeah, and that guy is so stoned, for the record. That is I love, my answer, get on a treadmill. That's like nuts and bolts, people. Get a health club membership. Trust me, inspiration will come, But his, go pick apart a flower, understand the greater purpose in the world, seriously, what is he thinking?
I don't know.
I just spilled a beer.
That's fine. The cat will lick it up.
Yeah, no cats here, but I do have another beer.
Oh, well, see, that's what they're good for. So,
yeah.
I just lost my audio real quick. I want to cheers you again before we start to move on, and we've reached our 9 o'clock hour, and you are about to start taking off your clothes, which is,
yeah.
Everybody else can stay on, but I'm probably going to take off.
No, it's pants down or gone right now, and again, that fulfills the second part. I was told at the beginning of this, number 1, don't be drunk, and number 2, don't embarrass us. So I think I've done both pretty good.
Fantastic. Well, I want to thank you again, Kevin McConkey. Cheers. Golf
Thank you
to you for coming on and sharing with the design community, which we all need so much in our lives because we spend too much time at our desks sitting down on our butts and getting fat. We need to get out and get inspired and get healthy again. I think we need a get healthy movement in the design community.
Yeah.
So congratulations again on all your success and your involvement with the STA and the Archive 10. Everybody look that up, sta-archive.com. If they want to follow you on Twitter, you are at HelloGrip on Twitter, and your website is gripdesign.com. Is there anything else that you want to put out there real quick?
I just want to say thanks to everybody who's sort of taken part in this community, and Ryan, thanks to you too, especially for doing this, because it's so easy to sit on the sidelines, and it's not so much now, but it used to be this thing where we would sort of sit and lob insults at each other, and it wasn't cool to foster friendships or a community. And I think that in part, and this is going back to the social networking thing, opportunities like this where we can sit down and have a chat and it's easy and quick and doesn't take a ton of time, that's what makes this community great. And I'm thoroughly stoked that you're doing this. I love that it is in some way, shape, or form, hopefully helping somebody else out. I encourage if anybody does have any questions or comments, you can email me at kevin@gripdesign.com. At Grip, we don't have, private numbers, so anybody can call or you can find our office number and call if you want to talk personally, and we'll try and make time for you. I just really think that this type of thing is important, and it's important because, and we mentioned this earlier, Ryan, you never know where the next great designer is going to come from. So that said, believe that it's anybody and treat everybody with that same respect, and you sort of have the beginnings of a community. And I think having chats like this are a great way to foster that. And so, I love for you guys for doing this, and hopefully at some point in time you'll be able to buy me a beer for the one I spilled.
We will have to do that. We will definitely, at the very least, meet up during the gala event in October. For the Archive 10 project.
Or come on down to the studio. Pay us a visit, right?
I will deliver a pizza to your studio. You don't even know.
Yeah, that we'll eat it. We have plenty of beer.
Well, we're back next week on Wednesday. We're doing an event at Columbia College. If you can, buy tickets to it. Come down and visit us at the Conway Center. We're doing a design chat for Design Week with the AIGA, and we're going to be talking to Art Chantry. And on Thursday of next week, 1 week from today, we're doing an episode with Debbie Millman. Look her up if you're not familiar. Design Matters, very awesome show. She tells great stories and talks to some of the highest level thinkers in design. Really inspirational. Look her up. And she's currently the president of National AIGA. So, Kevin, again, thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you, and I will show up on your doorstep soon.
Yes, please do. Thank you, everybody, for watching.
Good night, guys. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.